Hello and welcome to edupediaworld.com. So friends, in the last video we talked about the 3 laws of motion, and we also spoke about the concepts of momentum, inertia, and how the mass and velocities are also a factor in deciding the momentum. Now in this video we will first talk about the conservation of momentum, and thereafter we should solve few numericals based on the laws of motion. Now, what did we learn about momentum in the last session? So we said that momentum is equal to the product of mass into velocity, right? And it is not just the velocity, but also the time is also involved. We also spoke about time, and we did discuss the example of how a cricketer or a bowler catches the ball and he takes some time while catching the ball, right? Now with momentum, there is a law of conservation of momentum. That means, what do you mean by conservation? Conservation means to conserve, to preserve, to restore. That is what is meant by conservation. Now, what is this law of conservation? Let's say, now we here consider 2 bodies, that is, one is of mass of m1 and another body, let's say, is m2, or we can say a ball, let's say 2 balls. Now, let's say these 2 balls are moving with velocity u1 and u2 respectively. So they are moving in the same direction. Let's say m2 is also moving this side and this ball of mass m1 is also moving in this direction. But with different velocities, that is initial velocities, which is u1 and u2. Now, let's say that these 2 bodies or these 2 balls, they collide with each other. So before collision, this was the state. After collision, what happens is they change their velocity. That is, the u1 now becomes v1. Initial velocity was u1, final velocity is now v1, and the final velocity of the second object is v2. This is the state after collision. And they continue to move in the same direction or whichever direction they feel like, right? But this is the case. So let's say that before collision, the momentum of this first object, that is first ball with mass m1, is m1 into u1. And the momentum of the second ball with mass m2 will be m2 into u2, right? Because what is momentum? Momentum is mass into velocity. After collision, these momentums will be m1 into v1 and m2 into v2, because now v1 and v2 becomes the final velocities of the 2 balls, right? Now, what will be the rate of change of momentum of the first ball? We know what are the momentums before and after collision. So what will be the rate of change of momentum of only the first ball? So forget about the second ball now, just first ball. What is the rate of change of momentum? m1 v1 minus m1 u1, right? So we write here m1 into v1 minus u1 by t1. This becomes the rate of change of momentum of the first ball, right? And let's say we denote this, because this we know with the second law of motion, we said that force is proportional to rate of change of momentum, right? So let's say this is equal to f1 of 2. Next, rate of change of momentum of the second ball in a similar way will be equal to this m2v2 minus m2u2, because initially the momentum was m2u2. Now after collision it is m2v2. So what is the difference? So we have to write the difference and then the rate of the change. So m2 into v2 minus u2 divided by 2 will become the rate of change of momentum of the second ball. And let's say we denote this force as F21, right? Now the conservation of the momentum says that the momentum of the system will remain the same before collision and after collision, right? So that means when this was the case, F12 is equal to minus F21. Why did we write this? Is because in the third law of motion, we studied that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. The force that one applies onto or one exerts on the second object is equal to the force that the second object is exerting on the first object, right? These force should be equal in magnitude, but they should be opposite in direction. That's why we have a minus sign here. Now when we substitute the values, we will get this. And when we further resolve this, the t and t gets cancelled. So we will get m1 v1 plus m2 v2 is equal to m1 u1 plus m2 u2. This means what? What was this? M1 v1 is the momentum of the first object after collision. Momentum of the second object, this is after collision. So the total momentum of these two objects after collision is equal to the total momentum of these two objects before collision, right? So the law states that total momentum after collision is equal to total momentum before collision. The momentum is conserved. It is not lost. Now, this is the case when there is no external force applied. Let's say if you apply an external force, then the case will be different. So this was the case when there was no external force applied. We did not apply any force. So now that we know about momentum, law of momentum, inertia, so we are going to solve few numericals based on these concepts. So first we will pick up inertia. The first problem says that which of the following has more inertia? We talked about inertia, right? What did we study about inertia? We said that the more the mass of any object, the more will be the inertia. So now we have a rubber ball and a stone, and they are, let's say, of the same size. Then which object will have more inertia? Yes, obviously the stone will have more inertia because the same size stone also will be heavier than the ball, right? Next we have a train and a cycle. So which will have more inertia? So first we have to determine which will have more mass. So more mass is with the train. So train will have more inertia. This means that if you try to change the state of the motion or state of the rest of the train, it will be very difficult, right? Next is a 1 rupee coin and a 10 rupee coin. So obviously a 10 rupee coin will have more inertia because it is heavier as compared to 1 rupee coin. Now, why do we fall in the forward direction when a moving bus brakes to a stop, and we fall backwards when it accelerates from rest? So what is the reason for it? Now the reason is again inertia. So what happens when you're sitting in a bus and let's say the bus is moving, your legs, that is the lower part of the body, is still into motion because it is moving along with the bus. Now suddenly let's say the bus stops. So your legs are still in motion because they are moving with the bus, but the upper body, your upper body actually takes some time to realize that you have come to a stop. So what is the upper body? Upper body is also in the state of motion, and because of inertia, the upper body remains in that state of motion. And when the driver applies sudden brake, the upper body moves forward because it tends to be in that state of motion. So it takes some time to realize that yes, now the bus has stopped, right? However, the feet will come to stop along with the bus. So that's why you move forward. Now, why do you fall backward once it's accelerates? Because when you are sitting and the bus is at rest, so your lower part of your body, that is, let's say your feet, they will be in the state of rest along with the bus because they're resting on the floor of the bus. When the bus or the driver, he accelerates suddenly, upper part of the body tends to be in that rest position. Now when he accelerates suddenly, what happens is the bus goes forward along with the feet, but the upper part of the body remains or tends to remains in that state of rest position because of inertia. And that's why the upper body falls backwards, right? So that is the reason why we fall forward and back when the driver is applying brakes or when he's accelerating from the state of rest, right? Now let us solve our next problem. and it says that a constant force acts on an object of mass 5 kgs for a duration of 2 seconds. It increases the object's velocity from 3 meters per second to 7 meters per second. Find the magnitude of the applied force. Now, if force was applied for a duration of 5 seconds, what would be the final velocity of the object? So first of all, given if there's any problem given, first of all we write what is the data given to us. So in this problem, the data that is given to us is u is equal to, that is initial velocity, as it says that 3 meters per second. Final velocity, because it increases its velocity to 7 meters per second. So we have our final velocity as 7 meters per second. In how much time does it increases? That is 2 seconds. So duration is 2 seconds, it's given here. And the mass we know is 5 kgs, right? So first we need to find out what is the magnitude of the applied force. So we know that from the second law of motion we studied that force is equal to mass into the final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time, because force is proportional to rate of change of momentum, right? So if we substitute the value of mass, initial velocity and final velocity and time in this, we get F is equal to 10 Newton. What is the magnitude of the force applied? It is calculated as 10 newtons. Now, if this 10 Newton same force is applied for a duration of 5 seconds, then what will be the final velocity? Final velocity will be equal to u plus ft by m, right? Because how did we write u plus ft by m? We know that this is from the equations of motion. We know v is equal to u plus at. So in place of at, in place of that a, we had written f by m. This is f by m, right? Why? Because a is equal to f by m from the second law of motion. So when we substitute the value, we will get v is equal to 13 meters per second. So this will be the final velocity. So it is pretty simple. Now in this case we have used two equations. One is the second law of motion, that is this, and another one was the equations of motion, which is v is equal to u plus at. And again in place of a we had used f by m, that is, this again comes from the second law of motion, right? F is equal to m into a, so from that equation. Now let's see another problem. Which would require a greater force? Acceleration at 2 kg mass at 5 meters per second square, or a 4 kg mass at 2 meters per second square? So here we know that the masses are different. One is 2 kgs, another one is 4 kgs, and even the acceleration is different. One is 5 meters per second and another one is 2 meters per second. Now again we know F is equal to m into a, because he's asking which would require a greater force. So first, what is the formula of force? F is equal to m into a. Now in the first case, the mass is 2 kgs and the acceleration is 5 meters per second square. In the second case, the mass is 4 kgs and acceleration is 2 meters per second square. Now we have two different cases. So we calculate the force in each of the case. Simple, the force is mass into acceleration. So we multiply both the terms and we get F1 is equal to 10 newtons. Similarly, F2 is equal to 8 newtons because it is 4 kgs into 2 meters per second square. So we get 8 newtons. Now let's compare both the forces. So what we find is F1 is more than F2 because it is 8 newtons. So accelerating a 2 kg mass at 5 meters per second square would require a greater force, right? So that's how we calculate and we compare both the forces, and we have compared both the situations. Another one says that a motor car is moving with a velocity of 108 kilometers per hour and it takes 4 seconds to stop after the brakes are applied. Calculate the force exerted by the brakes on the motor car if its mass along with the passengers is 1000 kgs. Now first, what do we have here? We have the velocity, which is initial velocity 108 kilometers per hour, and we convert this kilometers per hour into meters per second. So we get 30 meters per second. And we also know that it comes to a stop because he's applied brakes. So the final velocity will be equal to 0, right? So the final velocity is 0 and the total mass is 1000 kgs. And we also know that the time is 4 seconds. So these are the value given to us, and we are supposed to calculate the force applied by the brakes on the motor car. So we know F is equal to m into final velocity minus initial velocity by t. So this comes from the second law of motion, which says that force is proportional to the rate of change of momentum. So if we substitute the value of m and v and the initial velocity and the time, we will get F is equal to minus 7500, that is 7500 kgs per meter square, or we can say 7500 Newton. So this is the amount of force. Why is that we have negative sign here? Because this shows that after applying brakes, the brakes applied is in the opposite direction to the motion of the motor car. So these were the problems which are based on inertia and the second law of motion. Now let's see this. Force of 5 newtons gives a mass of m1 and an acceleration of 10 meters per second square. And we have another mass of m2 which gives an acceleration of 20 meters per second square. So what acceleration would it give if both the masses were tied together? So first, we know that m1 is equal to force divided by the acceleration, and similarly in the second case we have m2 is equal to force divided by the acceleration of the second mass. So now we know the acceleration is given to us. In the first case it is 10 meters per second square, and in the second case it is 20 meters per second square, and force is common, which is 5 newtons. So if we substitute the value of the acceleration and the force onto this formula, then we will get two mass. First is m is equal to 5 by 10, which comes at 0.50, and m2 is equal to 0.25 kgs. So that's how we can calculate the masses. Now we draw both the masses, 0.50 and 0.25, and we add them because in the next half it is said that if both the masses are tied together, then what acceleration would it give? So we add the two masses and we get 0.75 kgs. So with this total mass of 0.75 kgs and with force of 5 newtons, we calculate the acceleration, which is 6.67 meters per second square. So if both the masses are tied together, then this is the acceleration that it would give. Now, next problem talks about a bullet which is of mass 20 gram, and this bullet is horizontally fired with a velocity of 150 meters per second from a pistol of mass 2 kgs. So here we recall the example of the recoil of a gun that we talked about while we were discussing the third law of motion. And it says that what is the recoil velocity of the pistol. So in this problem, what do we have now? We have m1, which is the mass of the bullet, is 20 grams. m2, which is the mass of the pistol, which is 2 kgs. So first we have to get both the masses into the same unit. It has to be in the same unit. So 20 grams we converted into kgs and we get 0.02 kgs. Now also we have the initial velocities of the bullet, which is u1, and of the pistol, both are 0, right? Because they are not moving, they do not have any velocity initially. And the final velocity of the bullet is v1, which is 150 meters per second. So now he is asking us to find the recoil velocity, that is the velocity of the pistol with which it will go back, right? From the law of conservation of momentum, we know that the total momentum before the fire should be equal to the total momentum after the bullet is fired. Now if we substitute all these values, that is m1 u1 plus m2 u2, that is the momentum before the fire. m1 v1, that is 2, which is, this is m2 is 2 plus 0.02 is m1 and m2, both the masses, into the initial velocity is 0, we know, is equal to the masses, that is 0.02 into, this is into 150, which is v1, so m1 into v1. So we have m1 into v1, which is 0.02 into 150, that is 150 meters per second square, because v1 is 150 meters per second, right? Plus m2 into v2, so m2 is 2 kgs, here m2 is 2 kgs into v, that is the velocity of the pistol. Now if we calculate from this equation, if we calculate v, we will get minus 1.5 meters per second, which shows that it is minus means it is in the opposite direction to that of the movement of the bullet, right? So this becomes the recoil velocity of the pistol. So again, if we draw the diagram, we have a pistol, and before firing, both of them, the velocities and initial velocities of both the pistol as well as the bullet is 0, because they are not moving. However, once the bullet is fired, the bullet goes in the forward direction, whereas the pistol goes in the backward direction, and so this will be minus v will be in negative because it is in the opposite direction. So that's how we calculate the recoil velocity of the pistol. Now another problem is what we have here. Two objects of masses 100 grams and 200 grams are moving along the same line and direction with velocities of 2 meters per second and 1 meters per second respectively. So what we have here, two masses, that is m1 and m2 we have. So we convert the grams into kgs. So we have 0.01 and 0.02 kgs. And we know that they are moving with velocities of 2 meters per second and 1 meters per second. So we have both the velocities, the initial velocities. They collide, and after the collision, the first object moves at a velocity of 1.67 meters per second. So what do we have now? We have v1, that is the first object moves with this velocity. This becomes the final velocity. We need to determine the velocity of the second object. So we need to determine v2 now. Again, we have the same formula, that is m1 u1 plus m2 u2 is equal to m1 v1 plus m2 v2. That means on the left hand side we have the momentum before the collision, and on the right hand side we have the momentum after the collision. So if we substitute all the values in this equation, we will be able to calculate v2. So v2 comes 1.165 meters per second square. That is, even the second object is also moving in the same direction with a velocity of 1.165 meters per second, right? So are you able to understand how do we calculate the velocities of the objects when there is a collision? We have used the law of conservation of the momentum, and it applies to all the systems. So I hope you must have understood the law of conservation of momentum and how this law of conservation of momentum is applied to various problems, right? So thank you for watching Edupedia World Video.